Hello and welcome to Everyday Petrolhead. I'm your host Terrence Anderson and welcome to my channel. So I have been dealing with a lot of problems with this car, and the wife and I have been discussing and we've been debating how much longer we're going to keep it. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and start moving forward with the idea of doing as many repairs as I can, and then it's time to get rid of the car. So today's headache. What is today's headache? Well, my shocks in the back have been drooping, and the primary culprit is the back airbag. What I ended up doing was I took some soap and water in a spray bottle and I sprayed around both back shocks because it kept drooping down and pumping back up. It was basically taking a little while to come back up. But it would get back filled again, and then it would sit up for 2-3 hours and then go back down. Eventually, all of this would end up wearing out the pump. I decided to go ahead and do some diagnostics, and lo and behold, the problem is the back left airbag. I decided to see how bad it was, so let me show you what I did. So the bag was leaking around back here. Now, mind you, it wasn't like this before. This is actually a sealant that I put on here because the leak was very minor. So I decided to go ahead and put on an adhesive silicone-based sealant, since the holes are like micro fractures. If it was anything bigger than that, like if it was leaking profusely really fast, I wouldn't have done it. So I decided to give this a try, just to see how it does, since I already know I'm gonna have to replace the bag. If it holds, great. You know, it could be someone else's headache, but if it doesn't hold, then I'm definitely gonna go ahead and replace the bag. But I figured, why not? I need the vehicle to be up and running, so I figured give it a shot and see what happens. So the logic here is, you know, I'm gonna just go ahead and fix as many of these little issues that are going on in the car. I also need to do a final video when I'm finally ready to replace it, showing all the things that I've come across so far with this car. Again, I still don't blame the brand. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, these German cars are just bad and all filled with so many problems and poor engineering. But I don't think that's really the problem. I think the problem more so is literally, one, the chase to stretch out maintenance periods so that you can convince people to buy vehicles for longer times. There is no engine on the planet that should wait 15,000 miles between oil changes. Secondly, I think the other part of it is the fact that the owners tend to rely on the manufacturers to do all the maintenance because it's a luxury car. And that's just bad practice. You shouldn't do that. If you have a car, you should maintain it. And even if the manual says change oil every 15,000 miles, common sense says that every car before you bought this one, you can only change the oil between every 3,000 and 7,000 miles anyway. So why are you waiting that long, assuming it's correct? You know, you should kind of have some common sense and think that through and realize that some of that sounds like a little bit of BS. So we'll check back on this in the morning. It takes 24 hours to cure. And once it's set, I'll film what's going on and we'll pump the bag back up and I'll let you guys know what's going on. Stay tuned. Since we know we have to replace the part and there's no guarantee that the bag would work or not work after this, I figured why not give it a try. I decided to try out Permatex adhesive sealant black silicone. This stuff is kind of amazing. It takes about 24 hours to cure and it still retains its flexibility, and it's great for tiny cracks. Anything that's almost microscopic, like, or just fraying on the sides and you can see it, it fills in the gaps very nicely. And as long as you put a thin layer on, I put on a fairly thick layer, but you know, just enough to coat it properly, and you let it sit for 24 hours. The bag is completely deflated right now, and once it's fully set, I'll go ahead and pump it back up and see where we're at. All right, it's day 2 with this experiment, and we're gonna see if this leaks after I pump it back up. So time to get a tire back on. So it's kind of hard to see, but in there on the back at the very bottom, there's one little spot that I missed. But again, like I said, it's so hard to see because it's right behind the rim and the plate behind the rotor that I guess I need to patch. So just one more little thing. So I guess the good news in the situation is that I'm not hearing the hissing anymore, because before it was hissing. So it definitely is working. Again, this is not a solution that I recommend for everybody. This is a solution because the cracks in the bag were minor. If they were bigger, there was no way that I could do this. All right, so it's day 2, and I've had a chance to evaluate the suspension situation, and it's still leaking, but the leak is significantly slower. It was bad before. Again, what seems to happen is because the airbags are made of rubber, vulcanized rubber, the rubber starts to crack with age and flexing, and along the bottom edge of the rubber around the bottom of the shock were some micro fractures, and they were leaking a little bit of air out. Now the bag's not blown, and the sealant did work, but what happens in physics is the area where there is a weak point is where the air or fluid, whatever it is, wants to go. So since I shored up the points that were problematic, it decided to shift to the next weak point. So what I'm gonna have to do is go through all the way along around the sides and seal up all the way around. But what I found was where it was leaking is no longer leaking. So this could be a possible temporary solution. Stay tuned, I'll let you know. Damn it. Looks like we're good to go. I got it actually patched up, and the bottom over here on the left, you can see that the rear axle is actually holding the air, even though the bag was just patched. Let's see how long this lasts. I'm gonna order the parts anyway. I'm gonna replace the bag, but at least this should hold me over for at least a few days, and we'll go from there. All right, and it's still up. See, the wheel is clearing the space in the wheel well. Wasn't doing that before, so the bag is staying up. And again, like I said, the only reason I knew that this could possibly work is because the cracks in the bag were minuscule. It'd be different if the bag flat out blew. There was no way I could do what I just did. So this is the temporary solution for now. And I will drive it today and see how it does. And like I said, we'll order the bag and replace it soon. And then probably, I think I'm gonna do all 4 of them. I'll probably take a little bit of time and just do all 4 of them. There you go, self-leveling inactive is off. The air suspension is working. There is a small leak in the bag still. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue trying to patch it temporarily. But the goal is to more so keep the car running comfortably until the bag comes in so I can replace it. So, you know, it's amazing. I didn't realize how much the air shocks matter when it comes to trying to keep the car upright. So it's amazing, you know, I'm actually surprised because I thought the shock was more involved in holding the car up than the airbag. But, you know, it has both, and the car, as I'm learning more about suspension, how the suspension system works, I'm realizing how much more important the tires, the spring, and the shocks are working together. Apparently your tire takes most of the blow from the road, followed by the spring, and the shock kind of keeps the car from bouncing all over the place. And the airbag being down the last day has been a pain to drive. I mean, it was painful to drive. Versus now with it inflated and working, you know, it's definitely different. So I will keep you guys posted on what's going on. If you like what I've been talking about, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll keep you in the loop of when I do change the bag. I'll do a video on that. Catch you next time on Everyday Petrolhead. Thanks.